What's your desired outcome? You always got to start with the end in mind, right? You can't start at the start. You got to start at the end. Take advantage of everything you can that will enhance your lifestyle, your peace, but also the relationship with your customers.
Obviously, relationships matter more than ever. You're still saying there's a human-to-human element that is important. Unleash technology so that you actually have more time to work on those relationships, to really what I like to call work on the business versus in the business.
What else can we do to help them be successful? And I think that's where, to your point, work in a business, work on a business, that's where technology has transitioned so many industries.
If I was a DSR today, I would look at my business and say, what can I do every day to be 1% better?
Push back a little bit. Try to look at what that is you have in greater totality and say, if you don't push yourself, you're not going to learn. And if you don't learn, you're not going to change. One quick story. When I was 17 years old, working in the pizza business, and I worked for this dynamic guy, walking through the restaurant one day, and he's talking to me. And there was literally a piece of paper half the size of my little fingernail. And we walked by. I saw it. We walked by. And he stopped me. He said, Hans, did you see that piece of paper? I said, yes. Why didn't you pick it up? You were talking. I love that you didn't interrupt me, but I'm going to tell you, it's all the little things that'll come by you daily that'll be the biggest difference maker in your life than the handful of big things that come by every once in a while.
Welcome to Crave, the IFDA Podcast. My name is Julian LeBlanc, your host for this series of great conversations with industry and non-industry leaders. The food industry is evolving rapidly, and so are its leadership challenges. Our mission with this IFDA Podcast is to help you stay ahead of the curve with fresh leadership insights and strategies. Before we get to today's guest, I'd like to recognize Cut+Dry, our sponsor for Crave. Cut+Dry is the nation's leading e-commerce platform, offering the seamless ability for distributors and their partner manufacturers to promote and sell more cases with our best-in-class operator user experience. Who doesn't want that? Now, speaking of Cut+Dry,
Got the inside scoop today.
Yes, I'm here in studio today with Hans Schatz.
Very, very well done.
Not bad, right? Executive Vice President. And today, you're wearing multiple hats, but leading all marketing, business development, and go-to-market strategies. Before we get into this, I had the pleasure of having dinner with Hans last night to get ready for today's conversation.
It was awesome.
It was awesome. And I must say, I left inspired around the possibilities of what this industry could be. And, in many ways, I was joking last night that this is going to be a little bit of a love letter for you to the industry. Right?
It was so beautifully put. I never thought of it that way. You gave me a gift last night.
Tell us a little bit about yourself, maybe your background in the industry, and what is it that you love about this industry so much? So let's start there.
You're right. I have been in this industry. I started washing dishes at 14. I'm not 14 anymore. Probably can't tell. And literally never left the business. And in those years, through those decades, I just kept seeing a broader picture and a broader picture and a broader picture and all the mechanisms that drive this industry. And I'll come back to that, but that's what led me to where I am today, which is really important. But I started, like so many, like I just mentioned, I started washing dishes. I'm on a board. I asked the board, it's a hospitality restaurant school. And I said, hey, in the board, how many of you, and this is like leaders of Fairmont, Prince, Marriott, Hyatt, and big restaurant chains, all that stuff. How many started in the Dishroom? 75, 80% of this 45 people raised their hands. I'm like, we have humble beginnings in this industry. And this is a story we need to tell, which is a story for another time, but I want to have it. So I started doing that. So I was in a restaurant business through high school, through college, transitioned into the hotel business with Hyatt Hotel, actually the Hyatt Regency San Antonio on the Riverwalk. Wow. Yes, I've pulled people out of the river when they've had too much to drink. As a food and beverage manager in my Hyatt suit and tie, but wanted a tremendous experience as a young man. That transitioned me from somebody that I knew, network connection, that got into this thing called food distribution. I'm like, doesn't food just show up? What do you mean there's an infrastructure and there's these giant buildings that have all this stuff and they hope you order it and I finally said yes. And I was a young sales rep, 26 years old, thought I knew everything because I grew up in the food business, and I was quickly found out I knew nothing. that this is a whole different skill set, a whole different set of expectations and execution, et cetera. And I ended up in the distribution industry for about 30 years.
And, you've joked about age. I can tell you at dinner last night, I felt at one point that I was talking to also a teenager in a good way, from the standpoint of your curiosity is probably higher than it's ever been. And I think it's a good transition to talk about, because you've really experienced it from farm to fork. Let's talk about some opportunities, maybe in the various seats that you've experienced, and even in your day job now as you're talking to various people.
All my roots lead back to what I learned in distribution, because there's high highs, there's low lows, and there's all that stuff in between, strategy and execution and sweat, right? Scrappiness and clawing and fighting and getting up and getting back at it the next day and all that kind of stuff. And that will lead me to my incredible love for sales reps, DSRs, MAs, whatever you want to call them. They get lots of different names, but what they are is they're independent business people, right? And there's like the ones that move the world, that do amazing things. There's ones that are new coming into business, and there's a group in the middle that's trying to figure out what do I do? How do I get to the next level? How do I be like Julian? I mean, this guy's winning promotions. He's going to Hawaii. He's getting this. But I want to do that. And so I think it's, and in my career, I've led from one to hundreds to thousands of people in that space. And then I want to add in, I'm going to bookmark in their very close component called the district sales manager, or their leader, their mentor, their coach, the person that removes obstacles, that brings resources. I think that, the industry has said forever, how do we get rid of salespeople so we can be more efficient? And it's like, what's your desired outcome? You always got to start with the end in mind, right? You can't start at the start. You got to start at the end. You may not know exactly, but if you know what you're trying to do, you can work backwards and say, that's not really a good idea, because
Stephen Covey would be proud of you. That's the 7th habit, right? Reverse engineer it, stand in the future.
And so let's look at this through the lens of what do all those operators really truly need, right? So you start there. Yeah. And, listen, no knock on the food service industry, but we haven't exactly been an industry that's just adopted technology and advanced, right? I mean, what's the most recent big event? I remember 1994, we rolled out laptops at FSA. We're like, woohoo, king of the world. Yeah. And, there's some other things that came along, but that was like the last really big, woo-ha, maybe some warehouse management and some voice order picking and things like that, which those are all big things that help reduce errors and increase efficiencies and effectiveness. But honestly, this is a grinder industry. Take an order today, mostly physically, goes in a system, gets organized, goes to a group of people, they select it off shelves, they build pallets overnight, pallets get put on trucks overnight, sometime early in the morning that truck goes out, goes to that entity, that operator, and that operator's like, it better be everything I ordered, in the right condition, the right item, at the right price, and better be on time.
Better be on time.
If I could go back to my younger self, as they like to, what would you tell your younger self?
Yes.
Yeah, chew gum more often, your breath bad. And it's, hey, step back, push back a little bit. Try to look at what that is you have in greater totality and say, what could I do to make a 1% difference, right? And you remember the old IBM commercials, 1 degree of difference, how true is it? The people that are stellar, they're not like 20, 30, 40%, but they're 1 or 2% that they'll do, and the things they think about, right? And the little extra following up, bringing all those little things are such a difference maker. Now, think about as a DSR, if you're not in, and your primary role is to take orders.
Yes.
Right? Which it has been forever.
Yes.
It still is today in most parts. But if your primary order is to take orders, that's the majority of the time allocation you have for that operator. They're all important. You get along with some better than others. You go to some of them, you go to their weddings and funerals and soccer games and, and this, that, and the other. And this was just a wonderful part, because the heart of hospitality that our business has. Our business doesn't succeed without the heart of hospitality. Now, some hearts are smaller than others and some hearts are bigger, right? But in the end of the day, if you're going to serve people, you are serving people, period.
I love that, to move to another level. Well, it's interesting. I just want to summarize what I'm hearing here, because I think we're unpacking something interesting from the standpoint of, if you were to rewind the clock, obviously you didn't have access to Cut and Dry, but wow, can you imagine if you had this technology? So what I'm hearing is really understand your value prop. So understand everything that takes place, kind of behind the scenes. So the magic, the Wizard of Oz, what's happening there? The heavy lifting. Then obviously relationships matter more than ever. You're still saying there's a human to human element that is important. Unleash technology so that you actually have more time to work on those relationships, to really what I like to call work on the business versus in the business with your customers. Because our customers are so busy being in the business that, man, if we can unleash technology, really understand our business, and get really good at the relationship side, how are you not going to go to Hawaii next year? Like you mentioned that as an example as the winner.
Well, take your distributor hat off for a moment, put on your operator hat.
Yes. Yeah.
And I was just going to say, I told you at dinner last night, I have to say this. I hate the term mom and pop. I think it's demeaning, even to the mom and pops, but independent operators in our country. And let's put the chains and all the non-commercial stuff in a parking lot for a minute. Let's just talk about all those hardworking 1 unit, 2 unit, 3 unit, 4, whatever. They scrape and claw it out. They're in their communities. They're part of their communities. Consumers love going to their places. Sometimes it's consumption, sometimes it's experiential, sometimes it's community, right? There's lots of different reasons why, right? And so they work it's 24/7. And I know it's cliche, but it's the truth. So we have to live in reality. We have to speak truth, right? We have to speak truth and love. That's what our pastor says. You got to speak truth and love. You got to be honest about stuff. You can't sugarcoat. You can't, because you're not helping people if you're not telling them the truth. But you got to do it in a way that's a loving way, and you want to help. And so I think that when you look at those independents, those operators, those amazing. I mean, think about like where we had dinner last night. They have a handful of locations. That doesn't happen without blood, sweat, tears, and passion. And they want us to come in and walk out of there saying, "That was amazing. Thank you for being a good server. The food was incredible. I didn't know what the price was, but you do, but you don't at that moment." And so, so when you look at it in those terms, then you take a step back and say, okay, now we're helping in a most crucial way because we bring the goods in that they produce and serve, right? How can we help? What else can we do to help them be successful? And I think that's where, to your point, work in a business, work on a business, that's where technology has transitioned so many industries to be better. Now, are there some fallout from that? Always, in all things. That's what disruption does, though. And I think when you look at, let me backpedal a little bit. I told you I was so happy when I met Monty and got to know him and his company, a few of his people. Then I had the opportunity to join the company because I looked at them, and I know our competitors. And I'll tell you, they're really nice people. They're good people. They're hardworking. They didn't have the depth of knowledge because this crew, this formidable 4 or 5 people have been together. That they're the nucleus of the country. I've been together for about 20 years, and they've done some amazing work. So the depth of their knowledge of how this flywheel in our industry works is deep. They've had their arms in it, like all up to their elbows, and so they get it back.
And you'd be a great gauge because you've also experienced it from the
Right,
other
and but they're tech guys, I don't say but they're tech, but they're tech guys. So in the industry and the tech guys, and I just saw that this moment there's a pivot that was important but it's not just distributors, which we're talking about today, and it's not just operators we're talking about today, and the core critical components like a DSR, like an owner operator of a restaurant. It's also the manufacturers. There's a big role here, where big manufacturers are the waterfall of resources for this industry. They get very little return on this huge spend that they do. So part of what I wanted to solve years ago when I told you when I started coming, and then I saw that country I also wants to solve is building that really more directly connected. And people use the word supply chain and they think, well, that's moving this widget from here to here. It's not. It's a broad term. But helping that supply chain function faster, cleaner, with complete transparency, and everybody wins. It's not the old collaboration model. Well, I got what I want. I'm sorry you're weeping in the parking lot, but I'll see you next year, and we're going to ask for more. It's literally, hey, we're doing some work together that we've never done before, and we're getting results that we've never seen before. And that will speed that flywheel up, and it'll make it larger, because guess what? Others will want to be part of it, right? So this is this transition we're going through. This is this moment in time.
Now I see why you're so excited last night.
Yeah.
Because but you do see an opportunity. It's interesting too, because I want to just kind of come back to the DSR just for a second. So what advice would you have to DSRs out there that are struggling to use technology? It's almost like maybe they know they should be doing, but they're protecting themselves because it's this notion of, man, if I'm taking orders, I'm adding value and I'm important to the cogwheel.
Right. And I'm busy. Yeah, and I don't mean that in a bad way, because my biggest thing I always say is, first of all, you are critically important. Number one, let's put that right up front.
It's a good place to start, yes.
Right. And that you have great influence over point of purchase, right? And that you can actually help people succeed greater or succeed a little lesser based on your involvement and your behavior with that entity. Okay. So knowing that critical nature, I don't think salespeople will ever go away, but they'll change. The role will change. I'm a real big fan in roles and responsibilities. What's your role? What are your responsibilities? Then that leads to what kind of relationships you have, right? Roles, responsibilities, relationships, the 3 R's. And I think that I always tell you, DSR world, and listen, I'm not professing to walk in your shoes, although I have, but it's been a minute. And I know, I get it. I'm like, what's that old guy talking about? But take advantage of everything you can that will enhance your lifestyle, your peace, at the end of the day or in the weekend, your peace, but also the relationship with your customers. Help them use this technology to take some of this stuff away. It's a great thing about technology is it takes menial tasks, and they're not menial, but it takes repetitive, recurring tasks, right? And it can do them in a faster, quicker way. Better in some cases, that can be argued, not better in some cases, I think better. Let that work, take that brave step forward and let that work do it. And a lot of people are doing this because this is not, we didn't launch this yesterday, right? We got $15 billion in distributor GMV going through our platform, over 100,000 operators. But there's still a reluctance because the thing is, that's my customer. You keep your mittens off my customer. Don't get my sandbox. And it's the same attitude a lot of distributors have. Listen, we're very paranoid because we've been burned over and over and over and over through time. And people say, hey, we're here to help. And what they're really there, they're putting their hand in our pocket and they're influencing our customer to do something we don't want them to do. That's the essence of the trust issue that gets in the between new technology that can drive the flywheel and we're just going to sit and watch. So for DSR, be out on the front edge of that. You don't learn. If you don't push yourself, you're not going to learn. And if you don't learn, you're not going to change.
And I think every DSR that I talk to they would say, Julian, I want to be relevant. I want to add value. I'll just offer this insight that every time I'm in front of a DSR, as I say, if you want more time with your customers, more, let's call it quality time to move a business forward. Let's assume I'm your customer. Show me that you know me and tell me something I don't know I should know about my business. And if you can unleash technology, understand your own value chain, come in and ask great questions, who wouldn't want to do business with you? You're not going to lose your portfolio. As a matter of fact, you've just built a moat around your portfolio, I would argue.
You really have, because we'll go back to that thing, is that most people are willing to do a certain amount of work, but they don't do those couple little extra steps. And it's not monumental steps, but it is intentional, right? And if you're willing to take those intentional steps, the impact that it has on the people around you, behind you, and in front of you is monumental, and it's a game changer. And I hate this. I hate memes and phraseology, but it is. You will rise above your competition. Doesn't mean it'll be easy. Doesn't mean you won't take your shots and things will happen because that's the nature of the business we're in. But you will build a greater relationship with much greater depth that will get you through some of those hard moments. And knowing that, listen, you have to bring it every day. And I tell people, and again, we talk, you have to lean in. And that's a nonstop 24/7. You can't take days off. You can't do this and the other. Yeah, you have easier days, harder days, but I'm talking mentally, plan, execute, review, plan, and that whole cycle that just doesn't stop. And the superstars in our industry, and probably in any industry, that's kind of the ethos that they operate by. And I think that our industry is ready for it. we have an issue with the industry. It continues to age. The average age of DSR is 57 something now, and they measure it every couple of years it comes out. And so why isn't that blending? Why isn't, and so there's a lot of questions that need to be asked. And again, a topic for another time, maybe for a VP of sales or DSM or even a DSR to have on talk to and get their insights, because it probably would.
I think, first of all, that's a great call out, because I do want to talk to all the key components of,
Right.
of the flywheel. I want to react to this 1% better, because I think there's an opportunity. If I was a DSR today, I would look at my business and say, what can I do every day to be 1% better?
Right.
And Albert Einstein once said, what's the eighth wonder of the world? Compounding. Because suddenly you wake up and guess what? Those 1% stack up, don't they? Let's talk a bit about the DSM, because they play a critical role. So let's assume I'm a DSM, you're my DSR. I know you want to be better. You're crushing it. And I know that if you unleash technology, you'd be better at it. So if you use the tools that are available to you, what advice would you have to DSMs as they're coaching their DSRs to be really good in 2025 and beyond? Is there some things that jump out, Hans?
It's a wonderful role. It's a tough one, because you wear a lot of different hats. And I think the first of all, let's take it from a relational leadership perspective, that you have to have authentic relationship with your people, and if you don't, nothing else matters. Then you're just asking and begging, right? You don't have that authentically. If they don't, and they have to know that you'll stand in the gap for them, but they also have to know you're going to hold them accountable. So, big corporate buzzwords, but use them at their essence of what they mean. So that's tough. And DSMs usually come from a DSR. It's usually a good DSR and or a great one, and that doesn't always translate. And that's not a hey, you're a failure. It's just we're all gifted skill sets as a human, right? We're really good at this, and we're kind of good at these things, and we're not really very good over here. So when companies get that role and responsibilities things a little messed up, then the waterfall, that's not great. So I'm getting down in a rabbit hole. Back to answer your question is, first of all, you got to integrate in an authentic way with your people. They have to know that you're serving a larger master, that you have a boss, you have a company that says you will do these things, right? So then you will do these things are real, because if we do them, great. If we don't do them, heads will fly, right? I mean, that's the reality of business. So then you use the marketing strategies of your company, and all companies are similar and all companies are different, right? We're all moving French fries and oil and fresh cut steaks and amazing sea bass and incredible produce and specialty goods and cleaning supply, all this stuff. So there's strategy. So the function of it's similar. Strategies can be different. Lean into those strategies, but also looking into your people and their specific marketplaces. It may be a downtown metro market. It may be a suburban. It may be small towns that are scattered across beautiful USA anywhere. And the needs will be a little different. The needs will be a little the same. So have a very constructed strategy for your district, for each one of your people, that relates back to your company, then ask for things that you need. I think that's the biggest thing, as opposed to just going every day and hoping that today's a good day, right? And we probably all do that a little bit sometimes, but I know you have to be, and I have to be very intentional about my time. You have to be very intentional, but I wasn't at 26. I probably wasn't at 36. I got better and better and better. You learn, you skin your knees and elbows, and it's like, man, I would have done that different, or I wish I would have asked one more question, or I should have sent that email yesterday because it cost me because I didn't do it, and today I lost this thing, or whatever. So those are things that you get those little knocks in the back of your head, and you learn to listen better.
Well, if you think about it as a DSM, you've got a great DSR on your team. You have an opportunity to help them with their habits, their daily habits. I remember my coach one time, he said, Julian, what's your priorities this year? I shared the priorities. And then he said, well, let's open your computer now. I was like, I know exactly where he's going. I don't see it scheduled there. How's that going to happen?
Right.
So for instance, if there's that one-on-one call where you don't want to talk about the business, but you want to develop a skill set, if it's not scheduled, it's not going to happen with your DSRs. Right. And I think earlier on with your DSRs, this is to my DSM friends, if we can help them get the right habits, and I love accountability as a word, because I think you can drive accountability or you can develop accountable leaders.
Right.
And so it is. Look, this is my, look, every role is hard in this business. I think the DSM, you play a pivotal role. And if you don't help your DSRs be better, and I see DSMs that try to save deals as well, right? Because they were really good DSRs, so now they want to go in. So
100%.
Yeah.
And they play a little hunter, they play a little farmer, they play a little negotiator, they play peace with, I'm trying to get this route for you, I'm trying to get this truck, I'm trying to change your delivery time, trying to get this product in for you, trying to get this prime vendor contract for this really big user, we're trying to get the broker to come in and drop off samples, and we're trying to get this manufacturer to give us a deviation. The DSM plays a...
Is it fair to say that I think what we're saying is it's not for the faint of heart? It is a very difficult role.
And great DSRs are legendary.
Yes.
The impact they have is huge.
Right.
And they are revered by their company. They're revered by their team.
Yes.
But they also have a great relationship with that network of customers that are inside their district.
Yes.
And I used to, back in the old days, get articles. I get all these magazines, not digital, analog, right? Yeah. And I'd read through and I'd find articles and I'd cut them out. I'd write a little note on the top. I'd make copies and I'd mail them out to all I was a district manager, to all the operators that my salespeople saw that I thought they would like that.
Wow.
And I would say, this is awesome. See Julian, he'll fill you in. So I always drew it back to the sales rep. Now, I worked for some people that said, Hans, you should do these things. And where they were brilliant in telling me, where it helped me as I did it, right? And again, it doesn't make me a superhero or anything special, but it was that 1 degree of difference. And we always we always had success. And that's what grew my career so fast. That's why I was always the youngest guy. And it's because it's those little things that people are like, even if it was an article, sometimes I'm like, this doesn't really apply. But what Julian's going to think that I'm thinking about him on my off time.
Yes.
And not even his direct person. I'm the secondary, right?
Well, what a great 1%.
And so so there's the little things. And it's, I worked for, so a lot of love for DSMs, and I'll tell you, I tell anybody in this industry, it's not the handful of big things you do that make you great or successful. It's all the little things. And one quick story: when I was 17 years old, working in the pizza business in high school, and I was the assistant night crew, whatever. I had this long title. All it meant was I got to use the owner's keys to lock the door at night. And but I worked for this dynamic guy, and a bunch of us did. And we were walking through and we were super crazy busy. It was a scratch place. Walking through the restaurant one day, and he's talking to me, and we're walking down this big hallway, and there was literally a piece of paper half the size of my little fingernail. And we walked by. I saw it. We walked by, and he stopped me. He said, Hans, did you see that piece of paper? I said, yes. Why didn't you pick it up? You were talking. Let me explain some principles in life. I love that you didn't interrupt me, but I'm going to tell you, it's all the little things that'll come by you daily that'll be the biggest difference maker in your life than the handful of big things that come by every once in a while. So never walk by a piece of paper. Always pick it up. The guest is looking. I'm like, I'm sorry, man. But I was I'm 61, almost 62. I remember I could smell the pizza cooking. It was etched in my. So I think that you translate that attitude into everything we do in this business. Again, heart of hospitality. DSRs have a really tough role. They're not going to go away. Technology is going to help them be better. DSMs now, maybe with technology, can have a broader view of their district, what's going on, all backwards and forward, because both of them matter. It can manage at a level where they can dig in a little deeper and be more thoughtful on what they're doing and how they're directing and literally how they're helping their district thrive and bringing up the ones that are having a struggle. Removing obstacles are the ones that never need never need your help. And then I always say is that big group in the middle. If you move, so bell curve, superstars 5-10%, newbies maybe a couple of stars that are dying 5-10%. So what does that make this? You move that group in the middle 1-2%, 3%, 4%. You've moved the world. So where do you focus, right?
I think when you. Let's call it change leadership instead of change management. I think there's an opportunity to say we can be better. There's a better way to do this. And the industry, a lot of industry, what they're challenged at right now is their why. Why do we exist? Why should people care? The good news is if, Simon Sinek would say, well, you're in the food business. This is, yeah. But in the food business, we'd say we know why we exist and what we do. And we need to make sure that the people that are working in the business can do some stuff, I'll call it stuff, that adds more value versus all these tasks that could easily be replaced by technology? I think that's probably a good way to put it is can we shift our energy in the spaces that who doesn't want to look at menu planning and ideate with food and have great conversation versus, it's 3:00 and now I got to get all my orders in today. It doesn't matter who you are. Let's talk a bit about, given that this is the IFDA podcast, I know that you're now
Thank you,
proud, but proud sponsor. What does the IFDA community, because you guys have really leaned in. I mean, you are there, you want to contribute, you want to be part of the conversation, you want to support. What does the IFDA community mean to you as a leader in the industry and to Cut+Dry? And how about this? If you were to encourage others that are not really leaning into community, whether it's working with Mark Allen's team on advocacy, whether it's taking advantage of some of their leadership programs, like what would you say about IFDA?
Yeah, I think great question, and thank you for asking that. I've had a long and deep relationship with IFDA going back to my distribution days. I used to help plan some of the SMART conference, for example. I was a vice chair 13, 14 years ago. It's been a minute.
Fantastic. I didn't know that. See, I'm learning something every second.
I was going to be the chairman the next year,
Okay.
but then I left FSA anyway.
Okay.
And so I've known Mark forever, and I'm a big fan of Mark Allen. He's a genuine human being, and he loves his members. I think he loves this industry, and he's in the same place as what do we do collaboratively, there's that word, to advance the mission. And it's tough because, again, you got, so it's an association, right? You got paid members. They all have opinions. They all have their experiences. They all have their wins and victories and failures and battles. And so there's a lot of opinions, and that's great. What IFDA brings is a forum for those discussions, those community arguments or ideas or ideation to take place, right? And to serve its members is to serve the industry, right? Because as the organization, the members get better and learn and grow and maybe get through some sinewy tissue that's been, it's like I've been doing it like this for 40 years, It's like, I know you have. Add this to your measure. Make this part of your habit. Put this in your strategy. Keep doing this stuff. You might find that some of it will fall off, but I don't need to have the argument with you. You'll figure it out because you're smart people. You're just hardworking people. And take a breath and let's do this. And I think the role that IFDA has played, is playing, and can play is to continue to work on bending that arc of innovation, of I want to say growth that's behavioral.
So now I want to finish in a fun little game that I've been doing, and I've been going to do this with every guest, and I will keep doing it because I feel that I learn a lot through this. So hopefully to my listeners, you feel the same. So if you had a T-shirt and you could only write one word, some people have said,
one of these questions. Uh-oh.
Yeah. Some people have also said, Julian, could I put a sentence? But honestly, I think it is difficult to encapsulate who you are as a leader. And I realize there's some days you're probably better than others. What would you choose for that word that you would hope people would say about you and that you're still trying to crack the code because you're probably not there every day, but what's the word that you would choose to describe your leadership style?
My self-reflection will be a little different than people that know me well, right? Because most of them have that honest, authentic relationship like Hans.
Yes.
They're happy to give me their opinion, which I love.
Yes.
Their feedback, maybe that's a better way to put it. But I think connector.
Connector.
Yeah.
Very good.
Yeah, because going back, I'm a super big believer in a network. And if we connect, and I can connect nodes and dots and then facilitate those relationships, amazing things happen. The better they do, the better consumer does. It all comes back through the supply chain. And we all win.
Yes, we all win.
And if it's one win, all win. It can't be one win. It has to be all win.
So I really appreciate you coming here in studio, right? Flew from Arizona to Ottawa, Canada. We put the I in IFDA, in International.
Right.
And it was a real great conversation. I learned a ton from you. Hopefully listeners, you feel the same. And to all my listeners, congratulations to you as well for investing in your personal development, learning 100%. And development. And with that said, again, thank you, Cut+Dry, for being the sponsor. This wouldn't be possible without your support. And finally, to all my friends, go get them. we rock this great industry, don't we?
This episode is brought to you by Cut+Dry, the only independently verified digital ordering platform that combines e-commerce, payments, and sales tools to help food service distributors sell over 10% more cases within a year. Here's the truth. E-commerce isn't just about going digital. It's about getting discovered. That's why, since 2009, Cut+Dry has led the industry in transforming your inventory into online custom apps that are easy to search, explore, and for your customers to uncover new products. Join us today at cutanddry.com.